Hello everyone, welcome to Dugout Daily. I'm Charlie and I'm joined by Bernard. How are you, mate?
I'm absolutely fine. Thanks. It's great to be here, and thanks for having me on your fantastic little show.
Yeah, cheers for coming on. We'll get straight into it with the match reaction. First of all, thoughts on the game overall?
It's one of those games. I mean, I was sort of comparing it to these games where we sort of it's end to end, but it gives our heart a flutter. Like you think the Monaco game, you think the Tottenham game, obviously in the Champions League, where we just seem to go for it. And the trouble is, as long as we score more than them, it's okay. But I think tactically, it was just a free for all. I like Leipzig. A lot of people were sort of thinking they'd roll over, be quite defensive, but I never thought that for one moment. And I thought overall, it was thanks to them. And I think it's about the 75th minute before I started to just relax a little bit. I mean, I was still a bit tentative when Angelino got sent off. But yeah, it's one of those games that it's a nice win, 6-3. But perhaps we could have reined it in just a little bit during the game and not so sort of got, certainly older guys like me, you're okay. But my little heart was sort of fluttering for a while there until I think we got that 2-goal margin back towards the end and then the 3-goal margin. But yeah, it's a funny one. I think the first games usually are. I think we've a history of having some odd first games in the Champions League group stages. I think this was par for the course. I think it's just another one of those. Get it out of the way, get the victory, and move on to the next one.
It was like a game of FIFA, end to end to end to end, and then we'd score, they'd get one back. I thought we'd get another 2-goal lead. Surely we'll close the game out. They get another one, make it 3-2 or 4-3. They weren't making it easy for us, and Nkunku for them got a hat trick, and I thought he was their best player by a country mile.
Yeah, well, I thought. I mean, I've liked Silva. You know, the other lad up front. I quite liked Silva, and I thought he'd have a year or two at Leipzig and then move over, as usually do, or move over to Bayern Munich when Lewandowski goes or something like that. But as I said, he was outshone by this other guy, so I was quite surprised. Perhaps Silva was sort of taking the defenders away from the other bloke. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I wasn't surprised. Defensively, that's the problem for Leipzig. Defensively, they're not great. I don't rate the goalkeeper one inch. I mean, he was in goal against England, wasn't he, for Hungary? And he's not there. I mean, I used to play in goal a lot as a younger man, and I'm part of the goalkeepers union, and I don't rate him at all. I think he's played for some lower division English clubs as well, but I think if you've got him behind you, I think it'll sort of panic the defence a little bit, because I don't think he's a very good goalkeeper. I think that's where most of their Leipzig problems are coming from at the moment.
Yeah, in that game against Hungary, he should have saved the Declan Rice goal, the fourth one. It was straight at him, let it roll under him. So, and he conceded 6 last night, which isn't great.
Well, he conceded 4 against Bayern Munich, didn't he? But they didn't play that badly against Bayern Munich either. It's just defensively they were awful. I mean, midfield they dominated. They sort of ran rings around Bayern Munich. But as I say, unless they sort that defence out, that's going to be a big problem for them.
Yeah. We'll go to the player ratings then. Just quickly say how you think they played and then give them a rating out of 10. First of all, the keeper, Ederson. How do you think he played?
Yeah, I always do my rate. I always sort of give him a base, and my base for last night would be a general 6.5. So I can't really give Ederson much less or much more. I think the third goal, perhaps he could have done a little bit better. I don't think he could have done much with the first two, but it's one of those games where he didn't really have a lot to do apart from pick it up out of the net. So I've got to give him the standard. I've got to give him the standard 6.5 for last night.
Yeah, one of the many goal scorers last night, right back, João Cancelo. How do you think he played?
Well, it is what it is, and I mean, the trouble is, he's great going forward, and he's been fantastic going forward this season. Obviously, we'd like to see him defend a little bit more, but that's not obviously how Pep wants to see it, is it? I mean, so we're going to have to accept his games as if you like, a a going forward defender. As a defender, I wouldn't rate him overly highly, but certainly if you get a goal, you've got to be rated, haven't you? So I think I'll give him a 7 or a 7.5. Probably push it to a 7.5 because of the goal, because he did have a good game last night again going forward. But I think all the defenders are just a little bit iffy on City's behalf last night. But no, he did what he's asked to do, and that's all you can ask with Pep teams, isn't it? If he does what Pep asked him to do, then great. So I'll give him a 7.5. I think he did pretty well last night.
Yeah. Big up James in the chat. Hope you're well, mate. On to the centre-backs then. Ruben Diaz, captain last night. How do you think he played?
I think he struggled, I mean, I think he struggled a little bit last night. All right, he's got Aki next to him, and no disrespect to Aki. I quite like Aki. He's getting a lot of stick, but we'll go on to him in a minute. But as far as Ruben, I think he looks better with, dare I say it, with Stones and Laporte by his side than he does with Nathan Aki. So again, I'm not going to have too much of a downer. I mean, I would nearly give him a 6. So I'll edge it for this program to a 6.5. I'll just give him a standard, but. It wasn't our best defensive display last night, and he's a big part of it, of course.
You spoke about him then. His centre-back partner, Nathan Ake, got the first goal. How do you think he played?
Well, this is it. I think that sort of kept him above the 6.5 for me getting the goal, because he did really well. He had another attempt, I think, at some stage in the first. I remember him going up like a salmon, going up with his head to try and get another one at some stage. But that's not what Aki's there to do. In the same way, Diaz isn't there to attack, is he? They're definitely not right backs or left backs that we expect to get forward. So I like Aki. I think he gets a lot of stick, and he's got a lot of stick last night when he got picked. I saw stuff on Twitter and Facebook about him, and I think he did okay. So on the fact he scored a goal as well, I would give him half a point more than Diaz. I'd give him push him to a 7. I'd give him half a point extra to Diaz, to be honest, just because he scored the goal. But again, not the greatest defensive display overall.
Yeah. Over to left back then, Zinchenko. How do you think he played?
He's getting a lot of stick, isn't he? I've seen a lot of negativity about Zinchenko, which again, in my eyes, it's the first game he's come out this season. This is the first time he's started for us, and it was a weird game. It sort of passed him by last night. It wasn't the same sort of. Obviously, that left hand side, he can't do it now. Obviously, with the other guys, he can't do it because of Grealish, etc. over there now. So he's obviously a bit stymied. He's a bit stuck now, so he can't use that influence. And you certainly noticed it last night. I mean, I think Stuart Brennan of the Manchester Evening News give him a 5. I thought that was a bit low. I give him a 6. I think he was a little bit below standard, but again, he's just come in again. Again, he's all right. He's a professional, should do better, but I think he was a bit stuck at where he was supposed to be playing most of the time. I think that was his problem last night. So I will give him a 6. So he will lose half a point on my standard, but I wouldn't have a downer on him as a lot of fans are having, which is unfortunate, really.
Yeah. Onto the midfield then. First of all, Kevin De Bruyne. How do you think he played last night?
Excellent. Excellent. Obviously that, I must admit, people are going on about the own goal, but I thought, to be honest with the defender, should have done a lot better. I know it's a great ball in, but he had a chance to just whack it out for a corner or something like that. Obviously, didn't realise how far the City player was behind him, about 5 yards. Was it Grealish, I think, behind him? Yeah, he had a great, what can you say? It was just Kevin De Bruyne. He looks as though he doesn't usually take a bit of time to get back in the swing, but I think Leipzig were an ideal team, actually, because they give a lot of our key players a bit more space than they would be used to in, a Premier League game. So I think he took advantage of that in the same way a couple of other City players that we've not spoke about yet did as well. So, I give him an 8 out of 10 for last night. I've seen marks as high as 9 out of 10 from the Evening News and stuff like that. But yeah, I'd have to give him definitely an 8 out of 10. Probably my joint highest score on the night, that one.
Yeah. Next up, Rodri. In holding midfield, how do you think he played?
Yeah, again, it's different. When I was in the South Stand, I try and watch the match back live again and sort of get a view on the telly, on City Plus channel. But I've not had a chance with this one. But I did notice Rodri, doing his stuff. Nothing exceptional. He just obviously you can't miss him, can you, on the pitch? He's probably the biggest on it when he's running around. But I thought it was okay. Again. Not brilliant. I'm not a big Rodri fan, I'll be absolutely honest with you. He doesn't do what Ferner does, and he never will do what Ferner does. He's a totally different player. There's no other Fernandinho, but I'll give him I think I would give him just half a point extra because I did know, he did sort of get stuck in and put it about a bit, and you did notice him in the middle of the pitch, as I say, and Leipzig have a good midfield as well. So, yeah, I'd give him a 7 out of 10 for last night. I thought it was pretty steady and just warrants that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, the final starter in the midfield, Bernardo Silva. How do you think he played?
Yeah, not his greatest, I didn't think. I mean, I'm a big Bernardo fan anyway, even when people were picking on him a little bit and he was struggling a little bit. So, yeah, busy last night. So I can't give any less than the standard, say 6.5. Can I think he was busy and he did what he had to do last night, and he buzzed about, and that's what we like him to do. So I'll give him the standard score for that.
Yeah. On to the front three. First of them, Riyad Mahrez scored the penalty. How do you think he played?
Well, I think that saved the game for him. I think I saw highlights of him getting a bit of a rollicking from Pep, didn't he, on the sidelines. But I'll be honest with you, I thought he'd gone off the pitch at stages. I thought they took him off. I thought he'd been subbed, and then I'd spot him. I wasn't, but I mean, I'll forgive everything. I'll forgive everything for that penalty. If you can teach all the other City players how to take a penalty like that and not spray it into the Anfield Road end or whatever, like obviously he's done before. If he can find that top corner of the net like that every time, great. So, I mean, I did give him a 7 on the basis of the fact that he did score the goal. But apart from that, he'd probably be a 5.5 or a 6. But yeah, I've given him a 7 because he put that penalty, and we needed that. We needed that 2-1. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. It was a pressure penalty. All credit to him. He stepped up and took it. So I'll give him a 7 out of 10 just for that, even though he did disappear for most of the game last night.
Yeah, and then up top was Ferran Torres. How do you think he played?
Yeah, a bit nondescript, I thought. Again, that's the trouble. I think he might be struggling to play the next game now after his last couple of appearances. He works hard enough. I think when I looked at Stuart Brenner's rating, he gave him not a high rating, but he said he worked really hard. I must have missed a bit of that. I just didn't see him that much last night. I think I only give him a 6 out of 10, just below the standard. I just thought... he didn't, again, perhaps it passed him by a little bit last night. I'm not too sure. Sometimes he looks as though it's just one of those games. He just couldn't quite get involved and he didn't quite know where he was playing, I don't think, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And then the final starter scored the 4th goal. Jack Grealish, how do you think he played?
Yeah, well, he gets my joint highest score with KDB. I give him an 8 out of 10 purely. And I think mainly he loved it because, as I said, I think Leipzig give him a lot of room. He doesn't get that sort of room, and he didn't used to get that room for Villa. He doesn't sort of get that, definitely doesn't get that room playing for City, that's for sure. And Leipzig, the way they played, especially his goal, he just had acres. He just had acres to move into, and he loved it. I think he just loved that ability to do that. As I say, he's not a prolific scorer, but if he gets a chance like that, he's got the composure and the skill to do a Raheem-esque or Mahrez-esque curler into the corner, which we see those two guys doing, and he did exactly the same. So he's my joint best player, I think, on the night. I did give him man of the match on the night because obviously I think KDB's had loads of them, and this was his Champions League debut. So I think Grealish thoroughly deserved an 8 out of 10, and I think he enjoyed it last night. I think he loved it. You won't get that much room in many times in the Premier League.
On to the substitutes then. First of all, Ilkay Gundogan. How do you think he played?
Yeah, I mean, he came on. He just brought him on to do the job, didn't he? Try and keep, make sure we got through the game, and he does that okay. He just a bit like a Rodri for me when he plays that role. He just zooms across the middle, does a few wall passes, tries to break up things, and again, nothing fantastic. Just did what Pep asked him to do. So just a big standard 6.5, just a 6.5. He was on for over half an hour, so I don't normally mark them unless they're on at least half an hour. But he did a steady Eddie job in that middle of the pitch.
Yeah. Next up, Fernandinho. How do you think he played?
Funny, isn't it? I mean, obviously, as I said, there's only one Ferner, and I think we looked a lot more composed, picking things up in the middle when he was there for that 30 minutes or so he played at the end. we know we're going to miss him when he goes. Obviously, next season it looks like, obviously, but yeah, again, he's a sort of player like Gundo. I suppose you would stick on probably more than Gundo, and to be honest with you, you'd stick on to see the games out if you like. He never lets us down, does he? So I mean, I'm not sure I actually rated him in my thing, but obviously he's got to be worth a 7. Just the fact he got worth half a point more, say 7, 7.5, just for the fact that you can rely on him, can't you? And I think he nearly score a goal. I think he had a shot, didn't he? I'm not too sure he nearly scored, but yeah, what can you say? He's just the perfect guy to bring on just to close games down, if you like.
Yeah. Next up then, Phil Foden, first game back from injury for a while. How do you think he played?
Well, it's good to get the minutes, but to be honest with you, I don't think he really. I can't remember how many touches he had, but yeah, it's good. I think he needed the minutes. That's the best thing I can say. I wouldn't rate him particularly, obviously, for the time he was on the pitch. But again, I think he'll probably bench for next week as well. I think he'll come back fully for the Wycombe game, hopefully. But yeah, it was good to get those minutes in his legs, and it was nice to see him. We missed him, haven't we?
Yeah, definitely. Next up, Raheem Sterling. How do you think he played?
Well, I don't really want to comment particularly. I don't think he had much opportunity to do too much, did he? I mean, even the cheers from the fans, if you look at all the cheers of players going off and on, I mean, sadly, Raheem probably got the least of the cheers when he came on, but yeah, again, it was just really to waste time and get the game concluded, wasn't it? But he didn't have any, in all fairness, he didn't have any time to do anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and then the final one of the players scored the sixth goal, Gabriel Jesus. How do you think he played?
That's it. I think, as I say, I don't usually mark him if they only come on for a few minutes, but I'd really give Gabby a 7 or a 7.5, and I did my little ratings of my little vlogs early on because he was there, wasn't he? I mean, this is what you get from Gabby. All right, he does. Everyone does. He did a number 9 job there, didn't he? He picked it, slammed it into the goal. That's what we want. I think we don't always get it off him, but I like Jesus. I like Gabby. I would say again, he's another one that I'll always stick up for because even when he's not playing well, he's a pain. He's an absolute pain to the opposition, and that's what we want. So, Gabby. If he had to mark him, I'd give him a 7, 7.5. As I said, but it was a bit late. But all credit to him. He sort of, it was all over by then, I think. But he took his chance well, and I thought it was going to be ruled out for VAR for a minute.
Yeah,
but we don't really in the stadium. You don't get to see what's going on, so we had no idea. But fortunately, and I'm glad that it stood and he was allowed to get it.
Yeah, Nippon gives Jesus an 8 for the goal. We'll ask you for Leipzig. How do you think they played?
Yeah, I think with Leipzig, as I say, that all right, they're struggling. I think they're 14th in the Bundesliga out of 18, which isn't great, as I say. But until they sort that defence out, I mean, most neutrals would say that they got the second best squad in the Bundesliga in Germany, behind Bayern Munich. Most neutrals, and obviously they proved that last year, didn't they? But they're looking as though that might have just been a little bit of a flash in the pan. But no, I think once the keeper the manager settles in, because he's a brand new manager, don't forget, as well, and he's got quite a lot of people leaving, as is usually the case in Germany with these teams, and a lot of people coming in. As I say, if he can sort his defence out, I think you'll see him slowly moving up that league. But I certainly wasn't thinking that was going to be a walkover last night. I was quite impressed with Leipzig. I actually watched them a couple of times last year when they had that run to runners up spot. They played some great stuff as well.
Yeah.
So I like Leipzig. I think it'll be better. I think by the home game, I think we can still beat them at their place. Of course we can, but I think they'll be a bit better in the Bundesliga. I think they'll be a bit further up, and I think they'll be a bit more organised. It's such a shame. I'm sure there's no reserve keeper to come in. That's the only problem I can foresee for them, to be honest with you. They might struggle defensively, but they've got a good midfield. They've got some good attackers, as you saw last night. Some of those 3 goals, a lot of players got involved. They weren't breakaways as such. They were good team goals from the midfield and the forwards. So yeah, I think they'll do all right. And I was quite happy to get that win last night. As I say, there's certainly no pushover, and I think they will improve as the season goes along.
Yeah, like you said, new manager Nagelsmann went to Bayern. A few players went to Bayern as well. Sabitzer and Upamecano. Kanate also went to Liverpool, so they lost a few players last season. So, but in the Bundesliga also, Dortmund obviously lost Sancho. Do you think they can still get that second place?
I think it'll be a struggle. I think it'll be a struggle this season. I mean, they've got the finances now. I don't know if they're allowed to talk about money. I don't know if they're called. I don't know what they're called, a pop club. I don't know what they call these things in Germany. They're not supposed to be linked with Red Bull, are they? They're supposed to be something totally different because they're not allowed to do that in Germany. But it's let's face it, Germany's Bayern Munich, isn't it? It's all usually about the runners-up spot, anyway. As I say, and any decent players end up at Bayern Munich in the end. So I hate that aspect of German football. People think it's good. I mean, the fans say it's wonderful. Some fans say it's great the way they run German football. Personally, I don't think so. But I think they'll be all right. I mean, it depends how Dortmund do. I think Dortmund are usually up there, aren't they? If obviously can get the best out of their guys this year, it will be very hard for Leipzig to match what they did last season. I think based on this start as well, because I think it'll certainly be 7, 8, 9 games before they start settling down. So they might be too many points behind by then. To be honest, if they can finish top 4 or 5, I think they'll be happy, but I'm sure they will. But yeah, you got to think Bayern Munich top and Dortmund second, haven't you? Despite all the swaps and changes that have taken place.
Yeah. On to the referee then. How do you think he did?
I think he let it know. I'm very confused with the refereeing at the moment. I mean, obviously, in the Premier League, we had this thing where they were being very lenient, or they started off being lenient, certainly for teams playing City. I'm not too sure how it stood up in other games, but and now all of a sudden they've reverted back to tight. But in Europe, usually they let things go. But this guy, when I put something out last week that he was the referee. Some guys did say he was the worst referee in Dutch football. So it's going to be a fun night. And I think he just clamped down very quickly. He was sort of, he wasn't letting anything go, and he wanted to, put his authority on the game, if you like. And it's sort of a bit stop-start, I thought, for that first 15, 20 minutes until it was obviously one of the goals, the first goal went in. It was a bit of a nothing game. And I think that was partly because of him. He was just stopping things. He was, I think he probably got it right. And Angelino, the second one was certainly a bookable offence. I don't remember much about the first one, to be honest with you.
Neither.
Nothing wrong with that as such, but and of course, again, the rules on this handball. I'm sure I'm confused by that. I mean, are the different rules in the Premier League? Because if that had happened in the Premier League, I think they would have waived it as not a penalty. I just don't know, because obviously his arm was up, and but again, it's interpretation. So we have to thank him for that. But overall. No, I used to like I remember when we first got into the Champions League. I was quite impressed with the European referees all them years ago, 10 years ago. Napoli, the first game, and we used to have Spiel quite a lot. But I'll be honest with you, the standard of European refereeing seems to coming down to our level in England. To be honest with you, so I wasn't impressed with him last night. Anyway, as I say, I'm hoping he doesn't do too many of our games. But having said that, there's not many I want to do too many of our games. There's not that many good referees about, unfortunately.
Next up, a controversial point. Pep said he weren't happy with the fans. How do you think the fans were last night?
Well, I was quite impressed. I thought I would have liked to seen a few more there. Of course I would, but I go on to a lot of the City supporters site. I mean, there's a girl called Emily who works on City supporters site who gets all this. I think Pep should actually go perhaps and help Emily for a few hours and just see what problems the fans are having actually getting this tickets sorted, etc., etc. From the start with the lack of season cards to the print at home and all the different things. And I think a lot of that's just piled on top of it. We're not going to get massic crowds for Champions League group games. We don't anyway. We never do. We never have done. Even I'm going back to the 60s and 70s when I was going to European games at Main Road. We never got massive. We just didn't get it. There's something about Europe. The City fans always prefer the English game for some reason. I don't know why. We won a European Cup quite early in our sort of recent history, back in the 60s. But yeah, I think that people aren't going to go. As I said, around me in the stand, in the singing section where I go, I would say for every 10 people that are normally around me, there's probably 2 that I recognise, and the others are new people. So it's amazing just how many regular season card holders, if you like, just don't go to the Champions League game for whatever reason. So that's just how it is. But for Pep to sort of fan the flames, I mean, we get enough stick anyway. You know what it's like. I mean, I know what it's like. I go on a lot of sites and you get plenty of comments from opposing fans. We don't really need our own manager having a dig at us. It doesn't help. It doesn't help, and it's just embarrassing, to be honest with you. And I think the chairman or the leader of the City Supporters Club has commented in a nice way, not in a nasty way, telling me he should concentrate on the sort of team matters sort of thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the actual wording of what he was asked. Some people said it's something and nothing. But anything that gives ammunition is sad. And as I say, I'd love to have seen more there. But the atmosphere was excellent last night as well. The singing, I thought it was pretty good. There's a bit of banter between obviously the South Stand and the Kippax or the Bell Stand, whichever you want to call it. There's a little bit of banter, not too much, but all credit to the 50 or so fans of Leipzig who made it, and obviously that killed the game atmosphere-wise anyway. But considering that, I don't know how it came out on the telly, but being there, obviously I'm a bit, obviously being in the South Stand, I sing my head off anyway, so it's always quite good for me. But I don't know how it came out on the television, but I thought it was okay last night. I thought the crowd was okay, could have been better, and I thought the atmosphere, considering the circumstances, was also very good. So it's a little bit disappointed, but I suppose Pep's put on a spot, I suppose, by these interviewers. I'm not too sure, as I say. I've not listened to the interview or seen it, so it is what it is. But we don't really need it. We're just sick to death of the constant jibes we get without our own guys not sticking up for us as well, which it's very disappointing, to be honest with you.
Yeah. There was Inter versus Real Madrid as well last night. There was less fans there, but you won't hear anything about it because it isn't Man City. Simple as that, really.
I think the thing is, just to sum that up, I mean, when City come up with a 54,000 capacity, I mean, there was a thing went round, they were asked fans' opinions, and I said at the time, look, if we average 50,000 a season, I'll be quite happy with that in the league. And if we get 45,000 for cup games, etc., I'll be happy with that. And we surpassed that for the first 3 or 4 years of the extension, and that's great. But I say it's like the be all and end all, isn't it? We lost a generation of fans. People forget that. Obviously, City fans. I don't think City fans forget it. Of my age, my lad was like one City fan amongst 20 United fans in his class at school. We lost a generation of fans when United was so successful. We're not going to get that back overnight, and the fans aren't going to suddenly appear from nowhere. And as I say, a lot of young fans around me last night, a lot in the teens, a lot in their early 20s, which is great to see. But it will take time, yeah. And I'd even go for 60. I'd even take the mick of it and say, I don't care. We'll extend it to 60,000. We can get 60,000 for big games, all right? And it will average, 53, 54, 55, 56,000. I don't care. I'd just take the mick of it. We sing about empty seats anyway. We take the mick of ourselves.
We're not
anyway, bothered. So we don't care. I mean, I think City should do what they need to do. Some people, we can't expand. Yeah, why not? Get it to 60,000 so we can get these big games, these big European finals and stuff like that. Because that's the idea, to get all the big matches as well. And as I say, we lost a generation of fans, and gradually there's a lot. You go look at the parks now. There's a lot of young little City fans, and 6, 7, 8, 9 years old. They'll all come through. But it's we're way behind all these other guys, the Chelseas, even Uniteds and Liverpool. Of course we are. We'll never catch them up ever. But it does take time. So I think you criticise City fans who have been the loyalist for many, many years by anybody. Never mind City Link people doing it, but any fans, they just don't know anything about history. They just don't know anything. And as I say, it is hard, but it will come. But it won't happen overnight. It's. I think this year, the crowds at the Premier game seems to be a bit closer, the published figures, to what's there. I think they changed the system slightly as well. I might be wrong in that, but I just get the feeling that the sort of, when there are empty seats, they're not as obvious on the capacity. We could have a 54,000 sellout and have loads of empty seats, but I think that's sort of not the same this year. It seems to be the way they're reporting it. I've no facts about that. I don't believe it, but obviously based on the first couple of home Premier, I mean, the Southampton's an example, isn't it? There's bound to be some empty seats, but we should probably still get a 53,000 crowd in. So Again, it depends on how many away fans come as well, which doesn't help. We know a lot of away fans don't sell out for City, do they? For the Etihad, a lot of away teams don't, which they would do for Liverpool or United. You will get fans selling out there, but sometimes we have empty tiers for the away match. We can't pick up the slack. We just say we haven't got the younger fan base coming through just at the moment to pick up that slack. So anyway, I'm carrying on a little bit, but yeah. There it is. I mean, I thought the fans, I think we get a lot of stick. We have to take it. We've got broad backs. I've been around a long time, but it's nice to see some City fans giving it back though, which is I tend not to do it these days because it's destructive. But I think we're all right. I think we're all right. We get a lot of unfair stick, and I don't think there's big problems.
Yeah. The final question, I think you mentioned it before, but who was your man of the match?
Yeah, as I said, I think it came between KDB and Grealish. I think Cancelo played well, don't get me wrong. I thought he had a good game. But when it comes to it, and I think only on the basis of obviously Grealish, it's his first one. He probably is like a kid in a sweet shop. I think he probably looked forward to that last night, and it all went to plan. Yeah, of course he would have loved to have been playing it for his team, Aston Villa. That's who he supports. I mean, I would love to play for my own team club, but as a footballer, he's had to accept how it is, and he's had to go to a new club to do it. But fantastic. I mean, he couldn't have asked for, as I say, not an easy debut in the Champions, because Leipzig are a good team, but he sort of went to his strengths last night, and I think Kevin would forgive me. I'm sure he's listening to this. I'm sure Kevin would forgive me for giving Jack the man of the match rather than Kevin. He's had a few over the years, hasn't he, Kevin? So, I would plump for Jack Grealish just because of the circumstances as well as his performance. It was an overall thing rather than, it was fantastic. It was a 9 out of 10 or something like that. Just for the circumstances surrounding it, I think I would definitely give it Jack Grealish.
Talk, a United fan, said the league is yours to lose, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it is. It is. I think the next 3 or 4 weeks are going to tell us a lot. To be honest with you, I know if we get beat at Chelsea, get beat at Liverpool, it's not. We've still got home games to come against them. But I think it'll be interesting. Talk MU. I think it'll be interesting. Obviously, saying United. This. All right. It didn't work at young boys, did it? But this is the Ronaldo effect. It worked with Van Persie many years ago, didn't it? When they brought him in for a season or two to try and win in the league, and that was the difference between us winning it and them winning it. The fact they got Van Persie, if you can remember back to that time, and this could be the case this time. The difference between us winning it and United winning it is who gets Ronaldo. But perhaps overall, obviously, they perhaps don't have quite the squad we've got. But say it may be the difference. But it'd be interesting. I see his point, but it is early days. I mean, I'd love City to do it, but I think everyone's a little bit worried about Chelsea grinding it out week in, week out. Lukaku scoring goal after goal. That is a little bit of a worry because they've definitely improved their starting 11. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying City haven't, but we've improved our squad with Grealish. I'm not necessarily saying we've improved our starting 11. We know why. We still think, as fans, we need a striker. So, Ronaldo might have been the difference, but Pep plays false 9, and let's hope it's back to backs.
Talk Man U's also said we're miles off it in terms of patterns of play and a solid plan.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, Ollie, I'm not a big Ollie fan. The longer he stays there, the better for me. But they do produce results out of nothing, United. That's what I like about them and I don't like about them, if you know what I mean. If you know where I'm coming from, because I want them to lose every game. But they have that ability, don't they? And as I say, there's certain areas of that team need strengthening, and obviously Ronaldo doesn't strengthen the areas he needed strengthening. I think they've got about 7 forwards on the books now, which is interesting. But I say it doesn't strengthen where they needed to be strengthened, and so week in, week out that may backfire. But I mean, I do feel a little. No, I don't feel sorry for Ollie. I'm quite happy for Ollie, but he's got a big job on. He's always had a big job on since he took over. And as I say, it's now he's got Ronaldo there. There's a lot of egos, isn't there? A lot of egos in the United dressing room, probably more than certainly teams like City and Chelsea have got. And he's got to cater to them. So if you can get them working, they'll be okay. But I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I'll come back in, say, about another 10 games or so and see how they're progressing. But they do have that ability. They do have that knack of winning games you don't expect them to, which is not a bad knack to have, is it, really? But they do lose games you don't expect. But if they can lose to young boys but then still win the group, so what? It's just how it is what it is, isn't it?
Yeah, I remember 2 or 3 seasons ago we lost to Lyon on the first game of the Champions League at home. Still won the group by a fair amount of points. So as long as you end the group well, it shouldn't really matter how the first game goes, to be honest.
No, it is what it is. I mean, obviously you like to get a nice win, but as I say, it doesn't mean it. They'll stuff young boys. Bad word to use. They'll beat young boys at home very, very comfortably, and I'm sure they'll go through. Obviously, the top 2 seeds in that group will go through as expected. Like most times you do, it's very rare you get a shock, isn't it? I mean, you might get 1 or 2 a season, if that, of all the groups. It's usually the top 2 seeds. That's how it's made. That's how the UEFA Champions League is built to make sure more or less the top 2 seeds of every group get through. But yeah, I think they'll be all right. I mean, I want them to get relegated every season. Of course they do. I'm a city. I know I've been there a long time, but no, I think they'll be all right. I think they'll be all right.
Yeah. He also says Chelsea play a very simple game and they will falter around the Christmas period.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Chelsea is they're nothing. I mean, I watched bits of them last. I've not seen them yet this season. I must admit, I watched bits of them last season towards the end of the season. Obviously, I did with looking forward to what we had to play. And Tuchel does what he does, and I didn't think perhaps he'd be as effective this season. But obviously, with the addition of Lukaku, I thought, that's be an interesting one. I was never his biggest fan, but he seems to have improved since he's been away from England and the UK. So yeah, they play. I mean, the thing is, that's how Chelsea won their first Champions League. I think by being stoic and playing unexciting football, but just doing what they had to do. And I think this is a similar sort of Chelsea to me at the moment. A bit more flair perhaps now, but they are what they are. And say that's the trouble. They will just grind out results week in, week out. They'll get the odd defeat, of course they will, but they will sort of Tuchel will have them organised, and it's very hard to do that. You've got a good manager who organises the team well. He's got good players. They can do anything. Look at Notts Forest. Look, Notts Forest in the old days, Aston Villas of this world. I mean, they won European Cups with good, solid teams. They were good teams, and they won leagues with them, but they weren't anything extraordinary. They were just very well organised, and Tuchel's very good at that. Tuchel's very good at organising, and it won't surprise me if they win the league this year and perhaps win the Champions League again. But let's hope we can have a say in that and stop that happening this time.
Well, I don't want to see Chelsea winning the Champions League again.
I don't. I'm just saying that's just the facts as it is. Unfortunately, yeah. I'd love them all to struggle, but you just got to take it on the chin, haven't you? You've got a good organised team. They've got a good organised team.
Yeah. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up?
No, I'm looking forward to Southampton. I'll be there again. I'm sure that obviously anyone who's not planned to go, make sure you get there. Otherwise, Pep will have a shout at you. But no, as I say, we'll get these 2 next games out of the way, and then it's fun times, isn't it? After that, it's some interesting games.
Three tough away games in a
Chelsea,
row.
PSG, and Liverpool. I tell you what, if we win 2 and draw 1, or a couple of draws and a win out of them 3, I'll be quite happy. If we get 3 wins, I'll be like a pig in muck. But there you go. It's I don't think so. I just can't see it. I'm always a glass half empty, but obviously over the last few years I've become more a glass half full sort of guy. But I say let's get Southampton and Wickham out of the way. Let's win those games, and then everything else will take care of itself one way or the other. If we don't win, we don't win. That's simple as that, isn't it? But fingers crossed.
Yeah. Just quickly before we wrap it up, mate, where can we find you?
Yeah, I've got on Twitter at Charles Deneen, and then I've got a little YouTube channel. So if you just go on to at Charles Deneen, it's Bernard Deneen at Charles Deneen. That's why it's confusing. Charles is my first name, but everyone's called me Bernard. So if you follow me on Twitter at Charles Deneen, go on there. All the links are on there to my various sites for football, YouTube, and I do a little film and TV channel as well, looking at films and stuff. So if that's you want to have a break from football, you can find me. Find all the details on there if you go on to Twitter.
Yeah. Cheers for coming on again, mate.
No, it's been fantastic, mate. Really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. You can find me at MCFC Hibs on Twitter, Double Out Daily on YouTube. Make sure to go and check out all of Burn's stuff. We'll be live again at 7:45 for a watch-along of Leicester against Napoli in the Europa League. So make sure you join us for that. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all later. Take care and peace. Goodbye for now.